always remember, we belong to nature. We're responsible for protecting each other and the whole natural world. A great native leader, Chief Seattle, made a speech. I wrote a song about it. Seattle, you are a foggy town, except in the springtime. And when the sun comes out, I just gotta sing. Now Chief Seattle, he made a speech. Said we'll haunt you on the playground, haunt you on the beach. White man didn't listen, he cut those cedars down. Now the ghosts are walking all over town. Seattle, you are a foggy town, except in the springtime. And when the sun comes out, I just gotta sing. Manhattan, there's an island by that name. Some people bought it and they played a great big game. They built a lot of buildings, houses made of stone. Millions of people live there, many of them alone. Seattle, you are a foggy town, except in the springtime. And when the sun comes out, I just gotta sing. Los Angeles, I find you a little strange. Lately it seems that you've come within my range. You've got a lot of freeways where millions of people pass. Seems they don't know that we're running out of gas. Seattle, you are a foggy town, except in the springtime. And when the sun comes out, I just gotta sing.
Wait. Who do you think you are?
The voice of Earth. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
This is Harvard. We don't make music, we think about it. Music is too powerful. It leads people into war, to dangerous moods, to silliness.
You make me happy when skies are gray.
Skies are gray. Harvard was founded by Puritans because life is serious. Why do you need a glee club? Elliot Forbes should be pilloried. Keep Harvard pure. Puritans. General Oliver, class of 1818, had the humility to hide his flute under his featherbed.
Harvard men, Radcliffe women. Every creature on earth needs music.
I hear no birds in your bird bath. Music is a frivolity. Playing isn't part of the Harvard curriculum, which was created to train minds. I know. I'm big brain. Enough music. I'm banning you. Brain power!
Look, Big.
Call me Brain.
Oh, Brainy. You're human. You're part of all this. Music feeds the brain.
Prove it.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn Balderston Parry, Harvard-Radcliffe 66, and I'm about to sing a song for you with my Appalachian dulcimer, which is an instrument I have played for many, many years in a fairly simple elementary way, and I've had a lifelong interest in folk music, basically. My dulcimer came into my life in my mid-20s when my English husband and I had moved to Canada, and I have lived here aside from sojourns in different places ever since 1973, and I think this was my birthday gift in 1975. At that time, David was starting to sing with a British trad kind of band, and I felt very abandoned. We used to sing together a lot, and we didn't as much, so I felt as if I was being bought off with his dulcimer, but I took it up. It just suited me. Music has always been a big part of my life, and I think it actually was a big part of my parenting. Both my children, my daughter, Carolyn Parry, has made, I think, about 5 albums on her own. My son, Richard Parry, is part of the band Arcade Fire. I'm sure that the way they grew up going to folk festivals and singing with their mother and father had a big influence on them.
There where the mighty mountains bear their fangs unto the moon.
I met David when I was in India as a volunteer, where I had gone after my life at Harvard-Radcliffe, and at that time we really made friends over singing folk songs together. And during the year that we both were volunteers together, we sang at some local village folk festivals, village temple festivals, singing Bob Dylan songs and the like, so go figure. I do think that if you can talk, you can sing. If you can walk, you can dance. And I am an active contra dancer as well as a folk singer. So I hope you enjoy this. I'm going to sing How Can I Keep From Singing, which is an old Southern American song that is probably written in 1864, but it has an extra verse that was penned during the McCarthy era.
How can I keep from singing? Greetings. I am Belford Lawson, class of 1966, Bachelor of Arts in English, and I'm here to talk about the role of music in my life. I have a theory about musical preferences. If someone strongly prefers one type of music, it's because the melodies, harmonies, and rhythms speak to that person as a caring, supportive parent would speak. The music gives usable, helpful advice without words that lets a person discover himself or herself. Hearing the right music validates our deepest sense of who we are. That happened to me. From ages 9 to 18, I played clarinet in a marching band in junior high school and in a classical ensemble at boarding school. By the time I enrolled at Harvard, I had a new musical interest, jazz, played on the saxophone. But in 1962, Harvard and Radcliffe were drastically empty of jazz. They were jazz-less. My interest in the saxophone began in 1953 when my family moved to Los Angeles. Suddenly one day in 1954, my mother, for reasons she never explained, gave me an album by Jerry Mulligan, an internationally renowned baritone sax player. Jerry, together with the trumpeter Miles Davis, created a style that came to be called cool jazz, a smooth, mellow sound, medium tempo, relaxing, harmonically complex, but assonant, at times ironic and at times romantic. Cool jazz was a rebellion against the 1940s jazz style known as bebop. I never liked bebop because it was played too fast and at too high a pitch. In my ears, that made it too screechy, wailing, and honking, atonally nihilistic, conveying some of the justified anger and dark rage many blacks felt about segregation and discrimination. Some jazz critics called bebop a protest art. Cool jazz was not a protest art. Many bebop enthusiasts found cool jazz square, syrupy, bland, and banal, the sound of a protified America, an America where troubled waters would never rise up and overflow their banks. But Jerry's unique way of playing jazz, woodwind-based, unself-consciously relaxed, and unapologetically individualistic, helped me orient myself in a way that nothing else could. Listening to his piano-less quartets, two horns in conversation with one another against a bass and drum background, enabled me to understand the culture of Los Angeles that surrounded me. Los Angeles in the mid-1950s was a place where radical self-expression was not considered eccentric, but rather normal. If a man, for example, decided to wear his hair very short or very long, no one made a value judgment. If a man wanted to become an actor or painter or dancer, people admired him for having the courage to believe he could succeed. Los Angeles women also faced less pressure to conform. Since slavery, generally speaking, never existed in California, there was no community of slave owners' descendants who believed the races should be kept separate. California's progress on integration could be seen in athletics and entertainment. Jackie Robinson starred in UCLA football before playing baseball for the Brooklyn Dodgers. Nat King Cole and Louis Armstrong became movie stars. Los Angeles, by the mid-50s, had become a multiracial, multicultural place. It was normal for white people, blacks, Latinos, and Asian Americans to mingle socially and professionally. The first 9 years of my life, I had lived under strict segregation in Washington, D.C. Jerry Mulligan's music opened my eyes. It changed me. I saw that segregation was not inevitable for all black people in this country. People of different races could live together without conflict and violence. In nearly all of his professional appearances that I knew of, Jerry Mulligan, the baritone saxophonist, always included African American musicians as sidemen. When I was in boarding school in New England, my experience with cool jazz served me well. It did not bother me to be the only black guy in the class. At Harvard, I knew that some white students whose ancestors founded Harvard and whose descendants had attended Harvard for generations felt superior to students who lacked this background. But that also didn't matter to me. I found fellow students of whatever race with whom I shared basic beliefs, academic or extracurricular interests, and lifestyle preferences. In 1973, I passed the bar and became a lawyer. I continued playing alto and baritone sax in various jazz combos, although by the early 1980s, when musicians began the switch to electronic instruments, I could not follow. I was never going to play an electronic saxophone. Maybe one day jazz will have electronic jazz musicians created by artificial intelligence experts. But through it all, through jazz, the true American music, I learned a lot, and I had a lot of fun. Thank you for listening.
I majored in music at Harvard. I thought I was going to be a professional musicologist until I encountered the gospel. I thought, this is so important, maybe I need to be doing church work. I still exercise my music gifts in all kinds of ways. I have a special interest in jazz music, partly because I just love the music and I grew up with it, partly because it has an amazing history. It was generated by African Americans during slavery and then beyond. I love this music anyway and played it. I thought, this is wonderful that I can love it even more as a Christian for Christian reasons. Music and theology have always been close. So I've always tried to wed music into whatever ministry I was doing. Even today I have a jazz band, and we do concerts where we explain the gospel illustrated with music. Music has just been a very, very important part of my life. Jazz has deep foundations from a believing community. Jazz is a joyful music, but it's joy through the valley of the shadow of death. Jazz owes its beginnings to the history of the spiritual, which owes its origins to the music of enslaved Africans who cried out to the Lord. So there are deep affinities theologically between this music that's called jazz and those theologies that deal with the problem of evil and that deal with grace and that deal with joy and love. The French were the very earliest people to appreciate jazz for its aesthetic, which is an African American aesthetic. They appreciated it more than a lot of Americans, a lot of white Americans. French people have had terrible suffering under the Nazis and much else. Since jazz emerged out of a people deeply acquainted with suffering, they felt a kinship with that moaning and outcry that comes with jazz. Early jazz heroes like Louis Armstrong and Sidney Bechet and many others found in France a home. So if you go to Paris today, there's at least 20 marvelous jazz clubs that you can go and hear just the best kind of jazz. When we moved to France for work, it was no trouble to find jazz lovers and to form a little band, which we did, and went around and did concerts of all kinds.
Is there jazz in heaven, Bill?
The kind of music we create here, to the extent that it glorifies God, and maybe to the extent that it needs further redeeming, certainly will be in heaven. And all that music in the book of Revelation, it's got to be to some tune. Is it going to be some unearthly, never heard before tune? I doubt it, any more than the words are.
So there might even be pianos along with the harps there, you think?
All right, now we're pushing it.
All right, great.
Music sends a dopamine hit to the spirit and the brain, left and right. Not just our hearing, our visual and tactile senses, our language, our memory, all thrive on music. Practical musicians practicing improve the use of both of their hands.
To what purpose? Harvard isn't a hands-on place. We're scholars. Other people can tend to practicalities.
What's more practical than living fully? Head, heart, and hands. Oliver Sacks, a bigger brain than you, said all speech and movement is organized musically. We're born with a pulse, and each life has its own rhythm. Find yours.
Greetings to all classmates of the Harvard class of 1966. I am Don Gunn, and I'm pleased to introduce you to the Great Highland Bagpipes. The bagpipes consist of the bag and the pipes. Pipes are also called drones. There are 3 drones, 1 bass and 2 tenor drones. Air is blown into the bag and squeezed out of the bag over individual reeds in each of the drones and in the chanter. In 1999, I had the good fortune to study bagpipes under Roddy McDonald, one of the finest bagpipe teachers in North America, and to play in the Sarasota Pipe Band. My most happy occasions in playing the pipes were our sons' weddings, Don Jr.'s on Vashon Island in Washington State, and son Scott's wedding in Hawick, Scotland. And now a selection of tunes on the Great Highland Pipes. Some of these songs may be familiar to many of you. The first selections are 2 traditional Scottish marches, Scotland the Brave and the Rowan Tree. Next is a tune written for Clan Gunn entitled The Sound of the Guns. That's guns with 2 ends. Next, in memory of classmates no longer with us, Amazing Grace. Lastly, a song familiar to all Harvardians, based on an old tune from over the sea, Fair Harvard. Happy 55th reunion, and go Harvard.
I'm Harriet Katz. Nice to see everybody. I've been fortunate over the years to do many different things that I've cared about. In college, I played the cello in the orchestra and in other groups, and I especially loved playing in chamber music ensembles. I never studied music at Harvard. I spent most of my life in Los Angeles, where, among other things, I wrote and edited publications for the ACLU. I also continued playing in community orchestras and played chamber music. In 1994, I was with friends. I was playing at a neighbor's Valentine's party, and this idea popped into my head to start a group called Ladies' Choice String Quartet. It became very successful. It grew to a circle of more than 20 women string players. We played at Oprah's 50th birthday luncheon. So I became a professional musician and entrepreneur, neither of which I had ever aspired to be. In 2001, I re-met and married a former boyfriend, Joel O'Brien, who was a musician and artist. We were very, very happy, but he died in 2004 of liver cancer. In the wake of his death, I started composing out of the blue. And since I'd had never taken any academic music courses, I had to do a lot of trial and error. The greatest joy I've had is this when I feel that I'm discovering rather than inventing.
Thanks be to God.
My opera Ruth and Naomi, which I guess is my major work, is an exploration of love and grief. We know that time and memory affect love and grief. The most important thing about Ruth and Naomi is that in the story, it's also the other way around. Love and grief impinge on time and memory. The biggest plot challenge I had was how would Boaz believe that Ruth was really from the future? In the clip that's going to be shown, she says, "Oh no, my wedding ring is gone. Must be too modern to fit in here." Well, it wasn't until ages later in the process of writing the story that I realized that I'd already had the way that Boaz would realize that she really is from the future, which is that her modern wedding ring magically appears. That was the key to the major turn in the whole story. And that sensation of that it was there already and that I stumbled upon it, I discovered it rather than inventing it, was just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. The performance of my opera was one of the most wonderful events in my life. I was surrounded by family and friends, including classmates. The piece that's also in this film, it's a short piece of mine called Within Music, was made on the patio of my condo building. I hope you enjoy it.
Welcome back, welcome back.
I understand their language, and I'm speaking it too.
Where were you?
I was in Moab. Reason I command.
As she can see.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God.
Reject me not into the world again. With you alone is excellence and bliss. This moment is the best, the best that life can
Besides the voice of Earth, I'm also Ginio Morris, class of '66. My first husband and I lived in Ketchikan, Alaska in the early '70s, when he did alternate service as a doctor for Native Alaskans. One day, visiting a nursing home, I asked a nearly blind Alaska native, a carver, a Tsimshian, what would you call this land you live in? And he said, what does the bear know? What does the deer know of this word Alaska? And a song came to me. I once lived on an island not very far from the northern star. Walk on the beach and look at the ocean. You can't get there by car. Gotta row there, gotta sail there, to the islands of the northern star. From time to time I hear of travelers going up the inland waterway. I tell them my spirit goes with them. When I'll go, I can't say. Gotta row there, gotta sail there, to the islands of the northern star. cedars grow and the loggers cut them. Salmon run and the eagles fly. Pray the rain keeps the big trees growing. I want to see them before I die. Gotta row there, gotta sail there, to the islands of the Northern Star. They say these islands are part of Alaska. Casper said it was a stupid name. Now the ravens watch the changes and see that nothing stays the same. Gotta row there, gotta sail there, to the islands of the Northern Star. Gotta row there, gotta sail there, to the islands of the Northern Star. One more thing. Take the B out of your name and you get what? Right as rain. Let go of yourself. Tune into the cosmos. Music is everywhere. Harmony, a certain melody, the right rhythm can move you and heal you.
You mean a Shelby Allen, not some fake Puritan?
1, 2, 3.
Easy now. This is Harvard and Radcliffe.
Put another nickel in the Nickelodeon. All I want is having you and music, music, music. I'd do anything for you, anything you'd want me to. All I want is kissing you and music, music, music. Closer, my dear, come closer. The nicest part of any melody is when you're dancing close to me. So put another nickel in the Nickelodeon. All I want is loving you and music, music, music.
All I want is loving you and music, music, music.